Stiamo facendo un viaggio che va oltre le emissioni e supera ogni barriera, fino al giorno in cui avremo solo acqua dietro di noi e aria pura sopra di noi. Toyota, let's go beyond zero.
Categoria abbiamo due premiati, abbiamo benvenuti.
Grazie mille dell'invito e del premio.
Ce lo racconti sul progetto di arte?
Sì, di arte nasce
dal passato. Decidi dove andare. Apri quella porta. Accendi il tuo motore. Allaccia la cintura. Stringiti al volante e vieni via con me.
Più investiamo nel presente, prima raggiungiamo il futuro. Questa è l'idea che ci spinge ogni giorno a muovere il nostro paese verso la ripresa, a dare a tutti nuovi percorsi da seguire, a usare l'innovazione per essere più liberi di crescere, a esportare la nostra eccellenza italiana nel mondo, ad anticipare i cambiamenti per costruire un domani più sostenibile con tutti voi. Perché il futuro è la nostra destinazione, solo se è un viaggio che facciamo insieme.
Stiamo facendo un viaggio che va oltre le emissioni e supera ogni barriera, fino al giorno in cui avremo solo acqua dietro di noi e aria pura sopra di noi. Toyota, let's go beyond zero.
Su questa categoria abbiamo due premiati, abbiamo benvenuti.
Grazie mille dell'invito e del premio.
Ce lo racconti sul progetto di arte?
Sì, di arte nasce
Accendi il tuo motore. Allaccia la cintura. Stringiti al volante. E vieni via con me.
Più investiamo nel presente, prima raggiungiamo il futuro. Questa è l'idea che ci spinge ogni giorno a muovere il nostro paese verso la ripresa, a dare a tutti nuovi percorsi da seguire, a usare l'innovazione per essere più liberi di crescere, a esportare la nostra eccellenza italiana nel mondo, ad anticipare i cambiamenti per costruire un domani più sostenibile con tutti voi. Perché il futuro è la nostra destinazione, solo se è un viaggio che facciamo insieme.
Buonasera a tutti.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the first meeting on ecological transition. This evening, we're going to talk about hydrogen as an energy vector. In the world, but obviously for us at European level, we're now facing a major challenge, trying to reduce contamination, pollution. And we are trying to develop our technologies, but by using renewable energy sources. And one of these energy sources is certainly hydrogen. The PNRR, the National Plan of Resistance and Resilience, foresees an amount of money for the sector of renewable sources, among them hydrogen, is around 23 billion euros just for Italy. 3.19 actually is for hydrogen. So for the production, distribution of hydrogen. So this is certainly a very interesting, very up-to-date topic. In the next few years, we will talk more and more about this energy source. And this afternoon, we'd like to open up a debate with our guests. we will try to go out of the usual slogans. So we will try not to talk about, well, being in favor or being against the ecological transition. We know that Europe is trying to speed up towards this ecological transition, but mainly we would like to talk about this opportunity. So what is hydrogen for us? Is it an opportunity, and also which technologies do we have, and also what is the role of institutions and companies when it comes to implementing new experiences with hydrogen? So I'm going to leave the floor to our first guest, Mr. Dossi, the president of H2IT. This is the Italian Association of Hydrogen cells, combustible cells, and it joins together the industry and also research centers in Italy, which are part of this sector. So I'd like to ask him, can you please tell us a bit more? So as an association, and also being an association, and also you individually, since you are observing this phenomenon and you are deeply involved in these changes, can you tell us what is the current situation and what is the future going to be like? Well, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Good afternoon. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for the very kind invitation to take part in this very prestigious meeting in Rimini. And well, I'd like to introduce the Association H2IT. I have the pleasure, and I'm also very proud to be the president of the Italian Association of combustible hydrogen cells. It was born in 2005. It has 80 members at the moment. And our association is really growing a lot in the last year. It has, well, grown a lot. And the association has two souls, let's say. First of all, the industrial part, represented by larger size companies, but also SMEs, that represent all the stakeholders which are interested in hydrogen, starting from production, distribution, storage, supply chain, supply stations, up to the end users. And then the other part of the association is the scientific part, the research part of the association, consisting of many technological clusters, universities, and research centers. And then there's also actually another party, that is to say Europe. H2IT obviously participates in Hydrogen Europe very actively in order to harmonize all the actions that are taken by Europe towards hydrogen. All right, so today hydrogen is considered as a very important energy vector in order to reach the objectives that we have we have to reach by 2030 and 2025, obviously. Europe is now, obviously carrying out many actions for hydrogen, obviously in order to carry out the ecological transition, but also because we would like to support the European industry. We would like to provide the European industry with technologies that show to be extremely beneficial and an advantage compared to the rest of the world. So this is a very complex technology for sure, but in the future, we will have the sector of green gas in Europe. We would like to keep the energy sector based on molecules and but also on hydrogen. So hydrogen obviously is part of the political agenda of all the European member countries, and also the political agenda of our country, Italy. In July 2020, Europe issued a strategy on hydrogen. And obviously, this is done in order to accelerate the development of the sector by means of three main points. First of all, the industrialization of technologies. Second point is the development of pilot projects with highly innovative content. And third, research, support to research and development all along the chain, supply chain. So since 2015, since the very first European directive, so position papers were produced and the government was helped, supported, the ministries were supported by us in order to understand what hydrogen was. And in 2021, we published some supporting documents for the hydrogen sector. Actually, this started in 2020. It took us 8 months of work, 7 meetings with 48 players of the industry, 12 research centers, and 7 between clusters and associations. So this report that was published contains the main recommendations in order to create the political conditions and regulations in order to support the Italian sector. So we tried to study any problems existing and barriers existing all along the hydrogen chain. And the first point, and this is fundamental for sure, is actually the main priority. That is to say, we need to have a strategic national plan that needs to be very clear with continuous actions for the short, medium, long term that will foster investments in hydrogen. We need to have very clear, continuous regulations over time, because otherwise it will be impossible to plan investments. Obviously, we need regulations, we need technical tools, we need standards, and also, we need to simplify regulations. And also, we need to make reference to some reference examples that will allow us to solve these problems. Another priority is the involvement of the citizens, of the social parties, obviously. And in order to do that, institutions and associations and meeting is a good example of it. Obviously, we need to have, we need to provide training in order to train technicians, operators that are well prepared, well trained when it comes to hydrogen. Let's remember that we're starting with hydrogen just now, and also we need to have correct information. Well, you know, hydrogen is a friendly energy vector that has heating power several times more than fuel, and so it's extremely precious. Well, the situation has changed quite a lot and quite quickly between 2020 and 2021. And then Mr. Draghi also launched some guidelines in order to launch a strategy on hydrogen. And and then, as we said, we also have the PNRR. And Italy is also actively committed towards the main European projects in order to make the Italian industry even more competitive. Obviously, Italy has to be aware of the very important role that this energy vector can play. So it is absolutely important. We can't slow down, we can't change direction, because otherwise Italy will be excluded. Italy will not take part in the main European initiatives if we don't do that. So again, I think it's very important to have a continuous action over time in order to get to some good results. This is all from me, and I'd like to leave the floor to the next speaker. Thank you.
Grazie.
Thank you. And, well, you know, as we've just heard, well, the technological part is certainly one of the most important aspects. And so, you know, we need new technologies. We need to have better knowledge about technologies if we want to use this vector. So now I'm going to leave the floor to the producers. So the topic of hydrogen, initially people thought that it was better for heavy transportation, especially due to the topic of charging stations. So now I'd like to leave the floor to Viale Michele, the Managing Director of ALSTOM Italy and Switzerland. And now I'd like to start with him. I'd like to ask him what does ALSTOM think? And well, are there already some projects, some examples, and also what about the railway system for the future?
Good afternoon, and I would like to thank the organizers for inviting us as ALSTOM to this important event, and in particular to have the opportunity to talk about hydrogen and sustainability. I think that we are all aware of what is going on in the world. We cannot lose more time, and we have to work and invest in the future, especially for our young people and our children and grandchildren. As ALSTOM, our policy envisages sustainability, which is the #1 factor, all the more for railway transport, as my colleague will mention, for a green and environmentally friendly kind of transport, because mostly trains travel by means of electricity, so many people can travel on the same train in a very sustainable way. However, it's not always the case, because in fact in Europe we have about 45% on non-electric lines. In Italy it's less than 30%. So starting from this basis and considering that there are diesel trains traveling in these lines, in 2016 we decided to develop with our German friends to develop a hydrogen-based train that started operating in 2018. It traveled already more than 5,000 kilometers, 200,000 kilometers. So this is a reality. It's not about the future. This has been ordered already. 42 trains of this kind have been ordered in Germany, and we have similar projects in Austria, in the Netherlands. And we also have a contract with the French railway company where there is a big investment plan in hydrogen for 2020. And we didn't stop here, because we collaborated with Ferrovie Nord Milano for an important project that will be the first of a long series in Italy in the Val Camonica area in the north of Italy. Marco will give more details about this. It will develop on the concept of a hydrogen valley. As Alberto said, hydrogen has a high heating power, and the big advantage is that it does not pollute. There are vapor emissions, water vapor emissions, so there is a first stage where it's considered a blue energy, and then it will be considered a green energy. In Val Camonica, we have 14 trains running about 40,000 kilometers per year. About 700 CO2 tons is for one train. So if we multiply this in a single valley, we would save 10,000 tons of CO2, replacing the 14 diesel trains with the 14 hydrogen trains. This is a first point that it's important to consider. What have we done? We decided to invest in a high technology train that is more evolved than the one that was developed for Germany. That is, starting with a traditional electric train that is running commercial service in the Emilia-Romagna region. It's called the POP, the model of this train, and it's going to start to run in the Lombardy region. It will be called the Donizetti. So starting with this train, we use the same platform and develops an intermediate vehicle that will transport the so-called hydrogen cell, fuel cell. So it is a platform-based project. It's not just a big evolution for the future, but especially it will be a train that is based on a known technology, existing technology that is already operating with a commercial service. And this is a big advantage for all our clients. This, in my view, is a very important point. We are developing on this project. We will also have the opportunity to work on the skills, because one of the fundamental aspects is to invest in knowledge and in skills. I believe that hydrogen is a big opportunity for our country. It is a unique opportunity. In Italy, we do not have the possibility to extract fossil fuels or coal or other substances. So working on hydrogen, I believe, is an opportunity for our country. On the one hand, this could make Italy a hub for Europe, so that this kind of product can be used on the continent, and then to generate skills and competences. So we are a country where there are so many talented young people that are willing to invest in the sustainability field. For this, I believe that combining together this kind of product that we have developed and of which we are honored to be the pioneers, with this important opportunity, these big investments that will be made in Italy and in Europe, well, I think that in 2050, in Italy and the rest of Europe, we should have at least 25% of energy produced based on hydrogen. I believe this is a challenge for us that is not only important strategically for our country, but also it is an important challenge for our society more generally and for our generation. I would like to conclude saying that we have never been aware of what we were doing too much. Unfortunately, I was born in the second half of the 60s, and we were not really aware of this kind of sense of the problems that we were creating in our planet. I believe that this is truly an opportunity for us and for our country to develop something that is unique and to enable us to multiply the hydrogen valley model that we are applying with the Ferrovie Nord Milano client. And I give the floor to the other guests. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Viale. For lay people like me, thinking about a hydrogen train sounds like a Marvel motion picture, but I see that in this hall there are many young people, and I believe that it can be particularly interesting in view of new education programs, new training programs for a sector that will certainly have a great development. So from train producing company, we move now to a company that produces vehicles, more general vehicles, both for heavy transport and for light transport, like automobiles and cars, and took up the hydrogen field in car production, not just for heavy transport. He will mention something about this, so I would like to welcome Mr. Luigi Luca, who is Managing Director of Toyota Italia. Many of us know that Toyota started an innovation program long ago for hybrid cars, electric cars and non-electric cars. And today, this company has started a project to protect the environment with a mix of products that includes not only hybrid cars, but also hydrogen cars. So I would like to ask him to tell us about this project and these developments. Thank you. Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for this invitation and for the opportunity to illustrate the view of Toyota on hydrogen. I will use some slides. to support my presentation. In this first slide, we illustrate the benefits of hydrogen. I think that the issue of the point of being an energy vector has been mentioned a couple of times. This is a central factor. And in this strategy, there is a full match with the investment in renewable energies and the use of hydrogen as an energy vector that can go along with this expansion. So it's a strategic choice and also a geopolitical choice in some cases that some countries are making, and more and more countries are making this choice. And when we talk about fuel cells, in terms of technology, we also refer to electric systems. I don't want to oppose these two systems, hydrogen and electric systems. Hydrogen cars are electric cars as a whole. There is an electric engine, there is a battery in fuel cells, there is the electrochemical reaction that transforms hydrogen and oxygen into electricity. So the category for us is electrified cars. And this contributes to proposing solutions, zero-emission solutions on the market that are complementary and alternative to the ones already available. For the final client, this is an extraordinary solution because in 5 minutes it is possible to refuel a car that can run up to 650 kilometers. There are problems with infrastructure, but then we will talk about this later today. As I said before, we are investing in all electrified solutions, the electric one, the plug-in, the hybrid, the battery. These are solutions that we offer to our clients in different situations, at different times, and in different countries. That is why we are insisting on complementarity of the different solutions. Here, you can have an idea of the kind of distribution of light transport. We see electric vehicles more suitable for city life, city movements, short distances. Of course, there is also a point with the hybrid vehicles for vehicles that do not really need infrastructure for between cities movements, and then we have heavy transport vehicles and long transport vehicles. This is in line with what has been said so far. I won't dwell a lot on this point because this is our strategy beyond zero. We want to go beyond the production of cars. We want to propose mobility solutions, and in this respect, for example, we are working on a project in the Mount Fuji area where we are going to experiment a solution of mobility and collectivity that will all function through hydrogen. This is Toyota Woven City, our project. We are working in partnership with an energy supplier from there, a local energy supplier that is specializing in hydrogen, and that city will be completely provided. The energy will be provided through hydrogen. But let's talk about solutions that are already available on the market. This is the second generation of our hydrogen car, Toyota Mirai. In the first generation, we sold more than 13,000 cars. This has been renewed. It's very pleasant to drive because it goes from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 9 seconds. In 5 minutes, it can be refueled for 650 kilometers of autonomy. This is a reality. It exists. In Japan, we went beyond this. We produce a bus, the Sora bus, that is available for sales in Japan. But we also offer something in Europe in partnership with our bus producer, that is Caetano. We are proposing at a European level a Toyota bus that is available and in which the fuel cells can be installed, and we provide that kind of equipment. Then further solutions concern heavy transport. For the moment, this is only available in North America and in Japan. So we're working to propose a heavy transport solution with the Toyota brand. And then the next step, and this is something that is being implemented already, the forklifts are being produced by Toyota, and we are producing hydrogen forklifts in Italy. Toyota Carrelli Elevatori is the division of Toyota in Italy that produces forklifts, and it's implementing a project for producing and selling this solution to companies that are interested in bringing down to zero their emissions, even in the logistic part. In Japan, we are also trying to provide solutions based on the fuel cells and installed on trains. We will also consider partnerships with other train builders, and we are also interested in sea transport, not just road transport. Somebody may know already this initiative. This is the a sort of observer. It is a catamaran that is powered by hydrogen, and it's traveling around the world, and it is presenting the issue of sustainability and ecological transition in all the most important ports of the world. We don't stop there. We also consider the production of generators, stationary generators based on hydrogen. A very interesting initiative is for the Eiffel Tower. A couple of months ago, the Eiffel Tower was lit completely with one of these generators. And more there are initiatives and events where the normal generators are not used anymore because they generate CO2, but they use stationary generators. So this was a very brief overview to give you an idea of our commitment, which is not a theoretical commitment. It is a concrete, tangible commitment to offer solutions that can help building an ecosystem. Today, we do not have the ambition to sell 100,000 items of Mirai Toyota on the Italian market. We have the ambition to begin working in sectors where, for example, heavy transport is predominant, and we supplement other initiatives. So let's say there may be projects already, for example, the one in Val Camonica. We may be able to participate in that and provide hydrogen buses, so we can provide solutions or services. We don't just provide products, we also provide services. For example, taxi transport with Mirai Toyota cars that can can be refueled at the charging stations. So all these solutions that may come from us or competitors such as Hyundai, BMW, or other also Stellantis is investing in hydrogen now. Well, the more we are, the faster we will be able to create a society that is based on hydrogen, as we believe it will be a fundamental energy vector for energy transition in our country. Thank you.
Per chi volesse.
Well, you're all invited to go and see Mirai at Hall C3 at the Toyota stand. So I'd like to invite you to go and see that beautiful car. It's really beautiful to look at. So we are really starting to see that this is not the future. It is actually already the current time. This is the present. And as Mr. Luca has just told us, there are some objects, some products that are quite popular, but they are being converted, and a new source of energy is now being used for those products. So it is feasible. We can do it. And now I'd like to mention a project by Ferrovie Nord Milano and Trenord in collaboration with ALSTOM, Toyota, and some other partners in order to use services for citizens. So again, we were talking about information to the citizens, how to better inform citizens. Well, the best way to involve citizens is to make them use these new systems, these new products. So now I'd like to invite the next speaker to tell us more about this project, and if you could tell us more about this project. So can it be replicated? Would it be possible to do the same project also in some other areas, to repeat it? Well, good afternoon to all of you. The project is called H2ISEO. Trenord has 420 trains in its fleet. 90 of them are diesel trains. Some of them are really old, so they produce a lot of CO2. And so obviously we also wanted to reduce that. We wanted to reduce our CO2 into the air. We're working with hydrogen, and we're also working with electric trains. So we have tried, we started working on these two aspects. Well, you all know Val Camonica. There in Val Camonica, there's a railway line of 100 kilometers not electrified, and also it goes up towards Edolo. So, well, you know, electric engines, like also car engines, also have problems there, since it's quite steep. So that's where Franciacorta is also located, for example. So it is exactly the best place in order to try and implement such a project. This is where we wanted to create the first hydrogen valley, right there. What does it mean creating such a project? Well, you know, the project is still work in progress. But, well, first of all, we invested 160 million euros in order to buy the trains. We bought those 14 trains that were mentioned earlier. So, well, we hope that it was not a crazy decision. They keep on saying that it was a very wise decision, so we hope so. I know that you agree, and I know that you think that it was a wise decision. So we invested and we bought 14 trains. Then, well, according to the project, 6 trains will be delivered by 2023. We will have the first hydrogen trains operating in Val Camonica for passengers in 2024. And then we will complete with the next 8 trains by 2025-26. But the main characteristic of the project is, well, first of all, you know, we don't develop technologies. We monitor the technologies, though. We try and understand how to use the technologies. And this is why the project started. So the project, well, we said, let's start from the need, from the demand. And we also need to produce hydrogen, of course, hydrogen with certain characteristics. The real challenge for the project is to understand if we manage to have a real supply chain for hydrogen, and also if we manage to implement this experience there. This is why it's called Hydrogen Valley. It starts from trains, but actually we would like to use hydrogen also on buses. We have 40 buses operating in that valley, for example, and we would like buses to be hydrogen, well, to work with hydrogen in the future, but also we would like hydrogen to be used by companies in the future, plants. So the project also foresees some production plants to be built in the future. We would like to have 3 plants. The first one in Iseo. We would like to have it at Iseo station. And then the second one in Brescia or Edolo. In Brescia, we're collaborating with SNAM. And in Edolo, we are now talking with our stakeholders, counterparts in Edolo. So we are trying to see how to produce hydrogen and with which primary sources. Well, in order to reply to your question, of course, it has to be replicated because otherwise it would be a failure. It's not just about to allow an area like Val Camonica to move to have a hydrogen-based transport system. It's not just about Val Camonica. Actually, we would like to create an entire supply value chain based on hydrogen. This is why we need to have regulations. We need to have all the solutions that don't exist nowadays. So I remember the very first time we started talking about it with the ministry, and they said, please, can you tell us how to put hydrogen into the car? How is the nose, how is the system to supply hydrogen into the car? Well, we don't know yet. Again, this is going to be the pilot project. In order to create a real chain, we will show that it is possible to use hydrogen, and if we don't manage to do that, the project will be a failure. So again, it will have to be reproduced. This project will have to be reproduced also in some other areas. Of course, there will be some problems, just a couple of problems. First of all, costs. Producing 1 kilo of hydrogen from renewable source. Well, from a renewable source, I mean wind energy or photovoltaic, it costs between 10 and 12 euros. It is not affordable, not sustainable at all. So this is the major challenge. How can we reduce the cost from 10 to 2 euros? This will have to be our objective, considering that the cost is due to the cost of energy, hydroelectric energy, for example, or other sources of energy. And then, obviously, we also have the issue of distribution and transport. The second problem, which is also connected to the first problem, is that we have to go beyond ideologies, utopias. People talk about green hydrogen. Well, we don't even know what the definition of green hydrogen is. Actually, our plant, first plant in Iseo, will be based on biomethane with a reduction of CO2. It will be even greener than green hydrogen. The cost is 6 euros instead of 12. My main message is if we really want to take this challenge and we really want to manage this ecological transition, we have to be able to do it. We have to be aware of the fact that there are several solutions, and we also need time in order to develop these solutions. This is our project with all its challenges.
Grazie.
Well, thank you. As you said, this topic of transition, well, of course, we are talking about a transition, so it has to be, well, something gradual, something that needs also a cultural change. A change in the mindset of the industries that take part in it, but also mindset change also for the citizens, for the users. And well, we can't rush. We can't run from this point of view. We need to take time, all the time we need to take. So with regard to the institutions, you know, institutions that will have to believe in innovation, and as we know, it will have to be progressive, gradual, And so probably we will not see the results immediately, but institutions will have to be aware of the fact that this is all necessary and it will take some time. So again, institutions will have to collaborate. Institutions will have to collaborate with those who produce technologies and services in order to implement those projects. As Engineer Dossi said, we need regulations, of course, but we also need to start from some examples. We have, well, this afternoon we have Engineer Alfreider, who is Councillor for Infrastructures, Transport and Mobility of the province of Bolzano, where actually the first hydrogen station is located. And you're also invited to visit their stand at Hall C3, where they present a project that they are carrying out in their area. So could you tell us a bit more about that project? Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you for the very kind invitation. It is a pleasure to be here with so many distinguished guests who are willing to invest in this change, in this innovation. As we said, well, you know, since the 60s, the 70s, lots of things have changed. Maybe at that time, people never thought about the consequences of our actions. And so, you know, I'd like to thank those people that in my area believed in investing in a more sustainable environment. Well, those people that started investing in this technology that, well, you know, 10 years ago, it was quite new indeed. Well, 10 years ago, this innovation center was set up. It is a center for hydrogen projection and also hydrogen distribution. The main problem was that we did have the production, but there was no demand at that time. And, you know, this was a real problem, just like, well, you know, in the railway sector, in the boat sector, there was no demand, and this is why the infrastructure was there. It existed, but we were not using it. This is why we decided to buy some cars, a fleet of hydrogen cars. As I said, in order to guarantee request and in order to start using our green energy, the energy that we were producing ourselves, and then we decided to invest in public transport. We bought 17 hydrogen buses. At the moment, they are operating in Bolzano, and we're also trying to increase the request for hydrogen. Well, you know, every day we have to measure ourselves with this new technology. It's not easy. Every day there are some new challenges and new problems, starting from the supply of hydrogen, 300 bars, 700 bars, and then, well, some hydrogen supply stations. Well, you know, the regulation is changing all the time. It is changing all the time, and this is why it's not easy. And meetings like today's meeting are very useful in order to exchange information and in order to be more reactive when it comes to well, passing laws and regulations in this new sector. As I said, we have 17 buses, hydrogen buses at zero emission, especially in the city center of Bolzano, and then we have around 20 cars with our in-house SASA company and our innovation center. We rent, we give these cars for rent to private companies. And at the moment, we're trying to implement this technology for mobility in our hotspots and also on the Dolomites. And also in Anterselva, for example. And in Anterselva, we will have the Olympic Games in 2026. So in order to do that, we need some new production centers, of course. We also need regulations, and I hope that with events like today's meeting, we will manage to better support this new technology. We are there. We want to keep on investing in this. The European Commission, as it was said already, has been investing, and it will continue investing in the future. So, as a country, I think we have the duty and also the right to be up to date and to be connected. This is a slide showing a project that we launched in 2019. This is an infrastructure corridor. Sustainable infrastructure corridor. This is the motorway of Brennero. This is actually the main motorway connecting the Mediterranean Sea and Northern Europe. And we are sure that this corridor will become much more sustainable thanks to electric infrastructure and hydrogen infrastructure. As you can see here on the little map, in the rest of Europe, especially Northern Europe, some stations, supply stations are now operating around 100. As I said, the one in Bolzano was actually the first one in Italy. But we don't want to be the only one in Italy. You know, that's useless. No point in being the only supply station in Italy. We need many more stations. This is a major opportunity for the Mediterranean area. We want to be the main connection between the Mediterranean Sea and Northern Europe. So we hope that this vector will continue developing, and we hope that it gets used more and more. Thank you.
Grazie, mi sembra che...
Thank you very much. I think that all the points raised can give us the opportunity to go through a second round of comments. You've been very good at sticking to the speaking time. So in this second round, I would like to mention a more general point that you've all mentioned in a way. There is one particular issue that is mentioned about electric transport, that is geography. We saw the slide with the map, and we see that there are differences in Europe, but also differences inside Italy. And in terms of planning, it is important to take this factor into account. On the other hand, this transition generates a need for know-how that is particularly strong. And the skills that are required will have to be informed by the subjects that are implementing this innovation. So I invite you all to give your remarks on this question. This is a strategic opportunity for our country. We see that other energy sources, traditional sources, are still quite strong, and it makes us feel that this attempt is not so needed. But we say that Europe contributes only 9% to emissions, but we have also cultural responsibility, and so it's important to continue with this project. Now, Mr. Dossi is ready to give his contribution. Thank you. First of all, as a premise, I would like to say that Europe wants to be leader in hydrogen technologies. So it wants to have a protagonist role. Then, focusing on Italy, we can say that we have all the competence, research centers, universities, companies, those producing charge stations, and now there's also incentives for factories. So we will be ready to start, and Italy must play an important role, and it has the possibility to do so. Decision makers must play their part, obviously, because this game can be won only together with private and public sector, with policies that can express very clear actions from the north to the south of the country. We are ready as a country to for this kind of technology. I would like to highlight that it is a new technology. It is complex, but it is a new business sector that will have also an important impact on employment, on jobs. I would like to tell young people that there will be opportunities in the future in this field. That's what other people said about education and training. So there will be many chances to create new jobs. There are some critical points about hydrogen. Let's go through them quickly. The first point has been already mentioned and concerns infrastructure. Without infrastructure, there's no way to go on with this technology. The only infrastructure is this charge station in Bolzano. I went there a few years ago. I tried the Mirai Toyota car, and it is a fully fledged charging station, fuel station, with everything that is needed. So infrastructure is needed. The National Rescue and Resilience Plan, with all the billions of euros devoted to this field, will cover 40 stations for cars and 9 stations for trains. The second point concerns this. The cost of hydrogen must become sustainable. I agree that green hydrogen made out of renewable energy, one may not be planned because wind and sun may be there or maybe not there, so we may have or not have energy. So it is clear that the cost of hydrogen can be high. However, the kilowatt per hour, that is not really 12, it is about 7, 8 euros, but it is still too high in comparison with the 2 euros of the hydrogen to be still reformed, the gray hydrogen or methane. So how can hydrogen's price be made sustainable? The first would be to start projects, and the first one was implemented by Ferrovie Nord, ordering the trains, and I am sure it will be a success, so I want to reassure my colleague. Then there will be big projects and the economies of scale, and the third point is research and development. And again, there will be a lot of technological equipment that will be involved. In the rest of Europe, there was an initiative launched, Fit for 55, that is halving the CO2 emissions by 2030. In this package of key measures, hydrogen is a central point because it is able to free potential of renewable energy, also to guarantee the efficiency of the energy system, because with the peaks of energy that will be registered more and more in the future, we will also need to have the possibility to stock energy in case of needs, and so to transform hydrogen in energy, and then to get to a zero-emission transport system. Colleague, we don't have much time left, and it would be nice to hear from the other speakers. I will finish talking about incentives that are included in the national recovery and resilience plan. So for mobility, I think that the Italian car industry should take part in the generation of Italian GDP. So we have car producers, recharging station producers, and spare parts producers. So this sector must be supported by all means. I would like to conclude congratulating on for the title of your event, The Courage to Say I, and I would like to bring this to the courage to risk, to take risks, and this has never missed. We never miss this among entrepreneurs, the courage for our collaborators, for the interaction between companies and the community, and for the company that should be seen as a place for knowledge creation and a place of virtual examples, and with the courage of believing in the future of technology and in the hydrogen. Apologies for being so long. No problem. We continue now with the other speakers. Please. I'll try to be very brief. I see the countdown. We have a timer in front of us showing that we don't have any time left. But many points were mentioned by Mr. Dossi, and I would like just to add a couple of points that were also mentioned by Marco before. We need the regulations, not just about distribution, but also the planning, the design of trains and cars. This is a very important point. We will have to try to work in unison in Italy and in Europe, trying to have regulations, not just products. We also need rules for the use of this technology in the future, and then investing in young people. I believe this is an enormous opportunity. We are collaborating with many universities to develop this technology, this hydrogen technology on trains. As I said, what we have in Germany is of a previous generation. What we are designing in Italy is the new generation hydrogen train. So it's the future hydrogen train. It will start its service in 2025. So investing in young people, investing in technology is fundamental. I think it is a very big opportunity for our country and for the knowledge of our country. Now, Mr. Luca. Very, very briefly, just a couple of points. The first concerns the fact that as Toyota, we believe that close collaboration among all the stakeholders is needed for results. We decided to put 8,000 patents in the field of hydrogen available for free to anyone. So just by sharing this technology and the creation of excellency, we will be able to reach a common goal. The second point is this. We have an extraordinary opportunity. We talk about competencies. The point is to put together the competencies, the skills to build. We don't really need special resources because hydrogen is available everywhere by definition. This is not the case for other technologies such as lithium. In this case, we do not really need anything special. It's something that depends on us, on our ability to create skills and competencies in this sector. And this has been the great point of Italy as a country, to be able to become a world leader in construction, even if we had limited resources. And this was achieved thanks to competencies. So hydrogen, from this point of view, can give us a new opportunity in the next few years as a country. I would like to mention just a couple of points. One, we have to work together as a system where institutions must be present. Institutions have to govern and give directions. Competencies are there. And in this stage, we have to be courageous enough to start the things that should start. And we complete the round with our colleague from the Alto Adige. We can just repeat what has been mentioned because indeed, these technologies must be implemented, must be tested. We need regulations, we need norms that have to be drafted. And so we may launch a call about the issue of costs. If we want this technology to start off for real, the 12 euro cost must be reduced. We have to work on this. Now there is a levy on the network, and so if we can eliminate that, that could be helpful. So a little call to our governments may be launched from here in this respect. And I would like to conclude by saying that we can certainly continue to collaborate at different levels, because technology goes really fast, and as institutions and as a political representative of a community, it is difficult sometimes to give the right directive to those who want to invest. Out there, there's interest, there's will to invest, so politics should give opportunities to invest to those who are ready to do so. Thank you. Thank you so much to all the speakers in this session. In Hall C2, there is an exhibition that describes the Val Camonica project, and then in C3 there is the Toyota stand and the province of Bolzano stand, where you can find more information about the things that have been presented here. Remember then that the meeting has been with us for 42 years, with exhibitions, with encounters, with really interesting initiatives. And this is possible thanks to the availability of volunteers and thanks to donors. Big and small donors show their great attention and their great love for contributing to this event. So in the halls, you will find some donation desks called Dona Ora, where you can give your contribution to the meeting, and so you can support the creation of this event, and also you can support a project that the meeting decided to especially finance this year. This is the Welcoming House of Rose in Kampala. It is a house welcoming children from difficult backgrounds. You can do that giving your contribution at the Dona Ora desks. Thank you so much to everybody.
Più investiamo nel presente, prima raggiungiamo il futuro. Questa è l'idea che ci spinge ogni giorno a muovere il nostro paese verso la ripresa, a dare a tutti nuovi percorsi da seguire, a usare l'innovazione per essere più liberi di crescere, a esportare la nostra eccellenza italiana nel mondo, ad anticipare i cambiamenti per costruire un domani più sostenibile con tutti voi. Perché il futuro è la nostra destinazione solo se è un viaggio che facciamo insieme.
Stiamo facendo un viaggio che va oltre le emissioni e supera ogni barriera, fino al giorno in cui avremo solo acqua dietro di noi e aria pura sopra di noi. Toyota, let's go beyond zero.
Decidi dove andare. Apri quella porta. Accendi il tuo motore. Allaccia la cintura. Stringiti al volante. E vieni via con me.
Più investiamo nel presente, prima raggiungiamo il futuro. Questa è l'idea che ci spinge ogni giorno a muovere il nostro paese verso la ripresa, a dare a tutti nuovi percorsi da seguire, a usare l'innovazione per essere più liberi di crescere, a esportare la nostra eccellenza italiana nel mondo, ad anticipare i cambiamenti per costruire un domani più sostenibile con tutti voi. Perché il futuro è la nostra destinazione, solo se è un viaggio che facciamo insieme.
Stiamo facendo un viaggio che va oltre le emissioni e supera ogni barriera, fino al giorno in cui avremo solo acqua dietro di noi e aria pura sopra di noi. Toyota, let's go beyond zero.
Decidi dove andare. Apri quella porta. Accendi il tuo motore. Allaccia la cintura. Stringiti al volante.